Good evening. Historian Noam Chomsky wrote, if you ask the CEO of some major corporation what he does, he will say that he's slaving 20 hours a day to provide his customers with the best goods or services and creating the best possible working conditions for his employees. But then you take a look at what the corporation does, the effects of its legal structure, the vast inequalities in pay and working conditions, and then you see the reality is something far different. A look at corporate South Africa may make you nod in agreement. Steinhoff, McKinsey, Bain, KPMG, Trillian and others. The reputations of companies like these lie on the floor like the discarded eyelashes of a drag queen. But this is no pageant. When business messes up, it is not only their numbers that are affected, but the lives of everyday people. Trust is shaken and suspicion is stirred. Tonight we go in on the ethics of business. Is the concept a unicorn? I'd like to welcome Busi Mavuso from Business Leadership South Africa. On my panel, Iraj Abedian, the Chief Executive Officer of Pan-African Investments and Research Services. And the important section of the room, our jury tonight for the citizen, Sean Klapthor, Jeanette Sombo, Cynthia Skuman, who is an ethics and governance specialist, and Akona Mashaya is a financial planner. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And welcome to the program. You know, this is not a place for speeches, and we have very little time, so I really hope that we're able to gallop through everything quite quickly. Busi, let's begin with you. Heather's son, who was appointed chair of Steinhoff after the crisis struck, said, at Steinhoff, I believe there was purposeful deceit where certain people went to great lengths to misrepresent financial statements in collusion with others. Then we have KPMG, South African operation, losing tens of listed company audit clients. They had to retrench hundreds of people that we saw, and they've fallen into the mud of the state capture saga. McKinsey and Bain's troubles had them apologizing, and I think collectively they had to cough up about 2 billion rand in repaid fees, amongst others. I could go on. But based on what we have witnessed, can we trust corporations? Can we trust you guys?
Of course you can trust corporations. I think we
As Iraj laughs, but go ahead.
Iman, I think we should not make the mistake of taking the conduct of a few rotten apples and painting the whole of corporate South Africa with the same paintbrush. Now, if you look at the JSE listed companies, for instance, you're looking at about 400 companies, and there's 6,000 more companies outside of that. Now, I don't think that it will be fair, to say the conduct of these 10, 15, or 100 companies, now constitute what is the norm in corporate South Africa. Now, fact is, business is a force for good in this country. Fact is, business employs 12 million out of the 15 million people that are employed in this country. Fact is, the fiscus that we have in this country, 90% of it is as a direct contribution to business. Now, I don't think that in the wake of all these corporate scandals, which are unfortunate, by the way, we can now conveniently forget, what business really represents in an economy, especially in a country like South Africa. We cannot afford to be pro-poor.
So you're speaking about the gospel of optics and the gospel of the majority. I want to come to you, Iraj. You wrote in March this year in respect of KPMG, the company dismissed 10 of its top executives. They had expressed total failure of its organizational management. You went even further to say that the executives in charge at KPMG still haven't moved in the direction of what they promised, a change of culture. They've delayed the IRBA's investigations. They've snubbed the Ntsebeza Commission of Inquiry. Clearly, KPMG and other audit companies seem to respond differently to regulatory bodies in our country as opposed to the way they behave overseas. Are they running roughshod in South Africa?
Absolutely, and KPMG has been the symbol of it. In fact, when it comes to the audit company, KPMG, in my view, is not fit for purpose any longer. Even now, after 2 years of pretending and changing, bringing black female to politicize this, black personalities to give a racial dimension to something which got nothing to do with race. It's about ethical conduct of a company that has lost its way, not only in South Africa, but also in the UK.
Do you think the black executives were brought in to bear the burden?
Absolutely. Not they want to just spin the thing that we want to transform, believe us, and so on and so forth. And that, to me, is an insult to the injury. But they are not the only ones. Deloitte has got its own skeletons in the cupboard. PwC has got its own. And the audit industry at the moment in UK is under severe investigation for a complete breakup. So it's not a South African issue.
All right, I'm going to come to some local issues around price fixing and some of the big scandals here. Iraj, and I think it's safe to say, Busi, many South Africans are not drinking your Kool-Aid.
But you see, I don't think that when appointments like the KPMG has been, now Prof. Wiseman Kuhlu is a brilliant professional, the first black chartered accountant in this country. You know, and Tlamulo Dlomu, you know, is an executive in her own right, and she's of good professional standing. Now, I don't think we should confuse the two. Putting black leadership in power has got absolutely nothing to do with, now let's remember that
but nothing
business
to do with what? Complete the thought.
has got absolutely nothing to do, you know, with corporate South Africa trying to, you know, atone for their, you know, bad conduct or whatever the case is. And I don't want us to link the two, because then what are we saying? Are we saying that had KPMG not faced the troubles that it has faced, then black leadership would not have ascended? And I've got a problem with that, because then it gives a certain connotation,
Iraj is
and
dying
it
to
leaves
come
a
in.
very, you know, bad taste.
Go
I
in,
think
Iraj.
in my mouth, for instance, there's a black African professional.
KPMG had more than 10 years. Prof. Nkuhlu was 10 years younger, and the current CEO that's been appointed would not have retired. They brought him out of retirement to a spin. KPMG is a corrupt, lost organization. They know it. Everybody knows it. That is beyond doubt. They agree themselves. The problem that I have from an ethical point of view are corporate South Africa, who is still, despite all the evidence, uses KPMG. What does it say about their ethics? That is a big issue.
Final word to you before we go to break, Busi.
Iman, business does not operate in a vacuum. You have to look at what does South African society look like. I mean, if you look at how corruption has eroded great institutions, now you have to agree that we don't operate in a vacuum. We are a microcosm of the society. Now, instead of looking at business and say business is actually corrupt, you should actually be saying we've got a deeper problem as a country,
which is
that of moral degeneration and ethical degeneration. So why are we not dealing with that?
We see it, Busi, and we see it through the architecture of business and financial systems that are supposed to be there to safeguard us, but which in fact have not. Is our jury convinced? We'll find out when we return.